Hi, I'm Ernie Zohr, and I'm the voice of this video, which is the latest in a series of Puritas Springs Software's FAQ videos on YouTube. This video, number 19, covers a subject that applies to a rapidly increasing number of law offices, and that subject is saving files in the cloud. Can Puritas Springs Software applications do that? Of course they can. And in this video, I'll be showing you how to set up your program to do just that. I'll be using the child support application for this demonstration. However, this information applies to all of our software, and the technique is essentially the same. Another thing I'll mention is that you can use the technique with a Dropbox account, and I would be using a Dropbox account in this demonstration, except that I don't have a Dropbox account, and I didn't want to pay the $10 a month or whatever for something that I already had, because a similar remote storage service comes free with our Microsoft Office 365 account, so I'm using OneDrive instead. Now, before I even start the child support application, which I've already started actually, I'll need to designate a location where I'll be storing my files. So there's a couple ways that I can do that, and one of them is by mapping. Now, mapping is nothing more than assigning a letter to a shared location on the network. Windows, by default, uses the letter Z, and if that's already used, it works its way down the alphabet until it finds an unassigned letter. Now, I know I'm falling behind the curve by using my old Windows 7 computer for these videos, but the software that we use to film these videos was installed on this computer years ago when Windows 7 was the current OS. And because it works well, we just never changed it. I guess I'm following the tried and true principle that if it's not broke, don't fix it, or in computer parlance, if it's working, don't update it. No, that's not true, but I'm just saying. Back to mapping. Now that you know what mapping is, I'm going to show you how to do it. First, you start Explorer. Now, this Explorer app has had several names over the years, not to be confused with Internet Explorer, which is for browsing the Internet. The Explorer that I'm using is for browsing my hard drive. On Windows 7 machines, it's called Windows Explorer. By the time Windows 8 came out, its name had been changed to File Explorer, and that's the name it has on Windows 10 as well. I'm going to start it up by going here in the Start button, and in the search box, I'm going to type, what am I going to type? Explorer. And there it is, Windows Explorer. I'm starting it up. I don't know why it's like that, but the menu bar is hidden when you start up Explorer. At least it is on mine, as you see. And if I press the Alt key, just tap it. There's the menu bar. And I can go to Tools and select Map Network Drive. And in the dialog here that's popping up, you see that I must have used Z already for something, so it's asking me, it's assigning Y. And then I have, I guess you could either type it in, but it's more common to browse. And that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm going to browse. Wait a minute. I don't know where I'm going to browse. Looking for OneDrive. There it is. I found it. And I select OneDrive. Now what's going to happen is that every time I refer to the Y drive, it's actually referring to this path here, which is the OneDrive. You'll have to find out where OneDrive is. Usually where it is it's in your users and then the name of your, with my profile here it's Ernie, but with yours it may be something else, or it surely will be something else. And that's it. I can click on the Finish button. And now, let's see what happens. If I, I did want to say one, by the way, the location that you select, like I selected the OneDrive, it can be any shared location on the network, either on my own computer or on maybe a server in the office, or on one of the other shared locations on one of the other computers in my office network. I guess a rough rule of thumb is that if you can browse to it, you can map it. So that actually was the hard part. This second step now is just easy. I start up the child support program, which I have already done, and I go to the options menu and click on default locations, and generally the first one in line is the one we want. That's the R11 files. That's the place where your client files are going to be stored. And also in this regard, I have to confess, we're guilty, like Microsoft, on this menu name. On some Puritas Springs apps, it's called default file locations. On some, it might be called set default locations. But no matter what we called it, it's going to be, I'm sure you'll recognize it. It's not going to be very different from what you just saw right now. Now, there may be several items in the submenu, as there were, and like I said, you're going to pick the first one in line. That's the one where your client files are stored. And again, no matter which app you try it with, it's always going to be the first item on the list. So now that the select directory dialog is up, you can see it's set to, where is it set to? It's set to my local C drive. And what I want to do is set it to my Y drive. So I'm going to go to, I'll go to computer. Oops. And here it is. This is Y, OneDrive. Select that. And, you know, typically you'd have a subfolder in there, but I'm just going directly to the OneDrive root folder. So I'm clicking on the select folder button. And I was going to say something else about it. Oh, yeah. There's a 5-minute video. It's number 6 in our FAQ series, and it has a bit more information about setting the default location. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. The difference in this video is that I'm not going to set the app to store the client files on some local server. I'm going to set it to store files in the cloud. Now, if you're saying to yourself, now wait a minute, didn't Ernie say that he was going to set the application to the cloud, and didn't he set it to the C drive? Well, you're making a good observation, and I'm going to answer that question in one moment. But first, you may recall that earlier I mentioned that mapping is only one of the ways to set the default file. Here's the other. Instead of doing the mapping stuff, and you probably saw this when I was doing it, I can go to the options menu, back to default locations, R11 files, and the OneDrive folder is directly available in my favorites. I suppose that I could have gone like this, select folder, and I think I did the job. Now that's it. And the way to test yourself is that if you did it correctly and you click on open, it's going to go to the Dropbox folder, or in our case here, the OneDrive folder, and that tells me that I did it right. And it also means that every time I click on open to get a file, and every time I click on save or file save as to save a file, it's automatically going to be done on the cloud. Now, again, about that question about, hey, isn't this the drive and not the cloud? Well, yeah, it is. But the way these remote storage drives typically work is, and the way OneDrive works, is that there are really 2 OneDrive folders. One is on my hard drive, and one is somewhere on Microsoft's remote servers. And the way the OneDrive works is that it synchronizes the 2 folders, so any file that I store in my local OneDrive folder is transferred automatically to the remote OneDrive. And that's it. And again, Dropbox works the exact same way, except that the local folder is called Dropbox instead of OneDrive. And again, how can I tell if I did it right? I just click on the open button. I can see right here it's going to the OneDrive. So I'm good. Hey, I hope that by sharing this little trick, I can make your life in the law office just a bit easier, because that's my goal. So thanks for watching, and I hope you visit our Puritas Springs Software YouTube channel again sometime soon. Until you do, I wish you all the best. Take care.